Hello everybody, here we are again with another tutorial on NGUI, and this time we're going to go ahead and start working on how to spawn our floating text in a spot that we want. So I just want to make sure I got the script open, which I do. So let's see, we've got it changing color, changing size, changing font. Yep. So the first thing we're going to want to do actually is just create a prefab. So I'm going to come down and see the floating text right here. I'm just going to come down, dragging that into the prefab folder to actually make a prefab. And then I'm going to go to the driver script. And we're going to want to get a reference to the actual floating text prefab now. And normally I use a game object for it. And then if I need any component specifically off of that game object, I'll go ahead and use get component. But since we already have one set up for it, I'm actually going to use this for now. So let's go ahead and take our prefab and we're going to drag it onto the floating text. Actually, first, just to make sure it is taking, I'm going to set it to none. Then I'm going to go ahead and try. And I didn't think it was. So I actually do have to set it to, well, it worked that time. Just want to see a little anal. Just want to make sure everything's copacetic. So okay, that time it worked. I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not. I'm going to go ahead and save the scene. I'm going to head back in. And I'm going to want to make something, a method called spawn or something like that. And I'm going to want to call it from here. And it's going to be one of the first things. So let's go ahead. We'll take a look here. In order to spawn, there's going to be a few things we need to do. Specifically if we want it to be at a certain location. And let me see here. We're going to have to know where the world camera is, the GUI camera, the target. So I guess maybe a method called spawn at would probably be a better definition. So I'm actually going to come here under init, and I'm going to make a public function. And it's not going to return anything, and I'm just going to call it spawn at. And there's a few things I'm going to want to add here. Well, let's just take it one step at a time. The first thing I'm going to want to add is a game object, and I'm just going to call this the target. And let's go ahead and actually, we have most of the methods done that we need in order to get this working. So spawn at, we're being passed in the target. So we're going to go ahead and call the target function up here and pass this target that we're getting. So we're going to say target is equal to the target we're getting from this parameter. And if we come up here and take a look, that means it's going to set our global target here in the script to the value. Plus we're also going to go ahead and actually find where the world camera is. So that's kind of like two birds, one stone. And if we look here, when it first wakes up, it makes sure it has the component for the UI label, and it goes ahead and finds the proper camera for the GUI label. So that actually, I think this just might be enough. Let's just go ahead and we'll run it and we'll see. So we're not getting any errors. The first thing we're going to want to do actually is come here and do a spawn at. So ft dot spawn at, and we're going to pass in the target. And I'm going to go ahead and comment some of these out. Let me see. Boom. Well, by default, let's just go ahead and we'll just get rid of these for now. So we're going to go ahead, we'll send it in. We tell it where its target is. And we do have one error here. And since we commented out this, we can go back to a void. And there we go. I'm going to go ahead and clear this off. Let's start it up and we'll see what happens. We're getting a null reference. Let's go see what this is. And can anyone actually see the error that we're getting here? I forgot to instantiate it. So I'm going to have to come up here and go instantiate. We're going to want to pick the prefab that we want to instantiate, which is going to be our FT. And we have a couple options here where we could pass in the location and everything else. I'm not going to bother with those right now. So now we've got it instantiated, we're going to want some reference to it, so we can actually say something like, let's try ft is equal to instantiate. Then we'll use as floating text. And we're going to want to go ahead and actually parent this as well. So let's say ft dot parent. We're going to have to get the transform. Dot parent is equal to, and we're going to want to get this hierarchy over here. So while we're here, let's go ahead and actually delete this floating text. Or for now, I'm just going to go ahead and deactivate it. And we're going to go ahead and create another variable over here for the parent. Now you could actually come in here and do a bunch of calculations to figure out exactly where the parent is, but that's not what I want this to work at. I'm working on, getting this script working right. So all I need to know is what the parent is. So we'll come up here and we'll say public game object is equal to, we'll just call this parent. And where we go? Right here. All right. We actually can't remember if it needs a transform or not. I'm just going to quickly. It actually needs a transform, so I'm actually going to come up here and change this over to a transform. There we go. We should be able to get the variable here. So I'll go ahead, take this panel, drag it on. And let's go ahead, we'll clear these errors. And let's try it out. So we'll go ahead, we'll hit start, hit driver. And the text is way too big. If we actually zoomed out, there we go. We do have it right though. We have to adjust that scale. So if we hit make pixel perfect, it looks like it came out okay. So the scale still looks okay. There we go. It was just late updating. So let's go ahead and we'll just try that again, just to make sure we understand what's going on. So when we hit driver, it actually does show up, but it's it's way too big. So what we're going to want to do is, before we activate it, is come down and hit this make in code, hit this make pixel perfect, which brings it back to what it's supposed to be. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can access that button before we activate. So I'm going to come down right before we activate it. And I'm going to see if I can actually get access to it. And it was called correction or something like that. Let me just take another quick look here. The variable is correction. And I'm not seeing it exposed. It might not be something we can call at runtime. And that's fine. If I'm wrong and you know about it, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. What I'm actually going to do is actually come up here. And before we parent it, let's just go ahead and debug log out the actual local transform on it. So we'll say ft.transform.localScale. And I'm going to go ahead and just actually put some spaces in here. This should actually let me know what it spawns at size-wise. So I'll go ahead and hit. And it actually does spawn at the right size. So if I go ahead and actually just store this value somewhere, and we're going to need a vector 3. Well, I guess technically we could do it as a vector 2, then we'll just do it as a vector 3, save the converting. And I'm just going to call this size, and it's going to be equal to ft.transform.localScale. Let's go ahead and get rid of this debug. We'll parent it. And then just go ahead and set the ft.transform.localScale to be equal to size. Not really the way I want to do it. Let me see. There's probably better ways to do this, but let's just go see if this works anyway. So I'll go ahead and start it up. We'll hit driver. And there we go. It works now. So let me see. If we grab the cube, move the cube around, it's still following the cube. So that does work, and that's what we wanted. We've got it spawning. I'm actually going to go ahead and actually delete this one now. We don't need it. Yeah, so it does work. Not the prettiest. I don't really want to have to get the size of it beforehand and then have to save it off and then reapply it. But it's something I'll look into a little bit later on. But for now, it does work, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. While editing, I realized that we actually already have something for changing the size. And it's right down here, font size. Now, I really don't like the name of this, so I'm actually going to, well, we're going to be doing some refactoring later anyway, but this really should be called size because it's not really adjusting the size of the font. It adjusts everything. But anyway, what I'm going to do is come down to spawn at. I'm going to go ahead and add a vector 3. And I'm just going to call this size. And then down here, I'm going to say font size, since that's what we're using for the variable name right now, is going to be equal to the size. That way there, I can just come up here and pass it in like so. We'll go ahead, get rid of that line, save it. To be honest, the parent probably should be passed in as well. So let's go ahead and we'll do that too. And delete that line. And we'll come into here. And we want to adjust the size after the parent. So we'll say transform dot parent is equal to parent. And we'll have to add that in. I believe I added it in the middle. No, sorry, I added it at the end. So we'll come at the end here. I'm going to set a transform with a capital T. And parent. And let me see. I'm just going to go ahead and change this. We should be caching a transform because we are actually doing something late update with it. But like I said, we are going to be refactoring. We'll go ahead, we'll hit play, hit driver. And there we go, it still works. Anyway, a little bit of cleanup that was just bugging me while I was editing. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.